was detained on a deportation order. Bowser says it's up to the feds to remove ICE from the task force. And the Dallas Cowboys have launched a memorial fund for Marshawn Nealon's pregnant girlfriend after the defensive end's apparent suicide last week. The fund will ensure Catalina Mancera and their baby are cared for. If you or someone you love needs help, text 988. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Hard rock style is coming to the Central Valley, just 15 miles south of Bakersfield off Route 99. You'll find world-class gaming and entertainment. Less drive time equals more playtime. The all-new Hard Rock Casino Tejon, opening November 13th.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was a rough night Wednesday for both of LA's NBA teams. The Lakers were in Oklahoma City and got crushed. The defending NBA champs beat the Lakers by 29, 121-92. 30 points and 9 assists for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Lakers had 20 turnovers. At the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic scored 25 points in the first quarter against the Clippers en route to a 55-point performance. The Clippers have lost 6 straight after going down 130-116. LeBron practiced for the first time this season on Wednesday. He participated in 5-on-5 scrimmages with the Lakers G League team, the South Bay Lakers. LeBron has been sidelined with a sciatic nerve condition in his lower back and left leg. The Lakers are planning to give him some playing time on Sunday in South Bay's next game against the Rip City Remix, the Portland Trailblazers G League affiliate. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, standing with you in perilous times. If you've been impacted by the federal government shutdown or the discontinuation of SNAP benefits, you can find a food bank near you that's offering free groceries by going to lafoodbank.com. County register in advance. And in addition to offering 2 free meals per day for all students, the LA Unified School District provides weekend meal kits for its students by request. The meal kits can be picked up on Fridays at grab-and-go locations. Please visit lausd.org/Cafe LA. That's lausd.org/CAFELA. We keep us safe. We keep us provided for. We keep us connected. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Only love will save you this time. Hopelessly fighting to escape your mind, and nobody can help you in this foreign land where loneliness can keep you down. Sunshine, you make me feel alive. Little more, just a little more. Sunshine, you make me feel alive. Little more, just a little more. Sunshine, you make me feel alive. Little more, just a little more. Sunshine, you make me feel alive.
KBLA Talk 1580. Perfect walk-on music for our next guest, known as an innovative thinker about how people and institutions hide harmful truths. She examines this in the realm of social control, the underside of government like prisons, courts, and treasuries. She's a path-breaking scholar, bringing big ideas that blow the whistle on bad behavior within society. Her book, released in 2025, Carceral Apartheid, How Lies and White Supremacists Run Our Prisons. Dr. Brittany Friedman, welcome back.
Thank you, Dominique. I'm so happy to be here. I was so happy to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. I was laughing when I said that because I think we could have crossed out prisons and put White House.
Yeah.
You know how lies and white supremacy run our government slash White House slash pick your institution.
Yes, I actually was listening recently to, how Trump was on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
And there was an amazing breakdown of all of the lies that he said on 60 Minutes. And I think they counted it at least like 2 to 3 lies every couple minutes. And one of the biggest ones was, he said, oh, grocery prices they're not going up. They actually went down. Or like, it's like the way he says it, it's like you look at him and you're like, are you serious? Like, what?
Yeah, that's one of the things I was marveling at because I think they went to the store and the bag had less stuff than it did last time and it cost the same price.
Exactly. I think that's why we're seeing, in other states like New Jersey, like, just like the turnout, the Democratic turnout. I think people are maybe not so much voting for Democrats, but they're just voting against Republicans because of everything that Trump represents, whether or not he's on the ballot. I think people are just, I think that's a really powerful force.
It seems like it's been 6 months since the election, doesn't it? I mean, we got to celebrate for 2.5 days, and then we were on. But I think what you're putting your finger on is really what I was looking for. We said we were going to do an election analysis on this show, and I feel like so many things have happened since then. But it is a pulse of what's going on with people, right?
Yes, I think that people are literally feeling what it's like to, there's this book by Jonathan Metzl, it's called Dying of Whiteness. And I love that book because he talks about like, what it takes to gaslight people to a degree that people would vote against their own survival. And I think that people are now really waking up to that. People that once supported Trump, I think we're seeing a big move toward the middle, especially when you look at people that, are, since our last election, you would be pretty shocked to see them move. And I'm also thinking of, again, I was looking at New Jersey just because once upon a time, we would think of it as like a Democratic, like sister state. Once upon a time,
blue. It used to be blue. Yeah.
But like even in, for example, the Latinx demographic in New Jersey, right? Latinx men moved more toward the middle, voting against Republicans in a way that, like, in this last election, people were like, "Oh, see, like." There's a swing towards Trump, and I think it just shows that, as you were saying earlier, sometimes you go too far. You just lie too much. You steal too much, and it's in your face to the point when it's undeniable. And like simple tactics of cover-ups, which is something I love to study, that we could actually use to analyze politics, they don't really work anymore.
They don't.
Yeah, they don't work. I mean, I'm just curious too. Again, I was listening to you earlier, and I loved what you were saying about the emails, the Epstein emails, because I, too, am very interested in this and the timing of the release with the election. Like, it's a very strategic move, but I think potentially an effective one.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say you think people are moving. Some people are, because I don't give up on people. You could say I'm naive or just an eternal optimist. I'm over here with my rainbows and unicorns and flowers and butterflies because that's the world I want to live in, right? So, but I don't want to be an idiot. But I feel like sometimes as progressives, we kind of have this little snotty attitude, like if you believe that, you're so stupid. And we don't give people an off-ramp for how to get out of that MAGA or that dumb vote that they did for Alex Villanueva or Trump or whatever. And I just feel like we have to, folks, to come back into the light, to the sunshine.
Yeah, yes, that's why I love that song. I'm so glad that y'all played it. It just
That was
brings
for
me
you.
back. Yes, thank you.
Like Cleo Soul.
Just beautiful, because I too I'm an optimist as well. And I do believe, you do have to meet people to an extent where they are, because without a level of understanding and kind of reaching across, there's no way that you can pull people forward. If you hit them with, oh, you're so stupid, or you're uninformed, all these things, like a wall, a defensive wall, psychologically, it naturally goes up. We even see this, right? We're getting into the holidays. If you do the same thing at the family dinner table, like about politics or whatever family issue, if you just say, you're wrong, you're this, walls go up. It doesn't matter if the person, maybe sees some of your points. As soon as that tone is taken, people shut down.
Yeah, I have a I have a family member that I'm still not speaking to from last holiday season because he chose to vote for Trump, and I just can't. I just can't. It's the James Baldwin quote, you have a right to your opinion until your opinion, equals my demise. I mean, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are in that place. I can even say, too, I too have a family member that, earlier this year, they said some things about what really was like Trump declaring war, like on California with, and they were basically saying, like, I don't understand how people could protest, like, why are people in the streets causing chaos? And I just, like, my whole face, because I'm a very visual person and I don't have a good poker face, my face just looked just like, it was abhorrent to me that they said that. And I just can't bring myself to respond to any of their messages right now, because I feel like I had to protect my sunshine and my peace, because it just brought me to a level of anger. Like, you go from 0 to 1,000.
yeah.
It's like, nope, can't do this.
Yeah. I'm also very interested in what you said about cover-ups, because I feel like we're watching a cover-up in real time right now, and it's not really slick.
I would agree, it's not slick. I think that what we're going to see, especially in response to these emails that just came out that Trump is claiming is like a Democratic, ploy, I would predict, I think we're going to see a continuation of blame avoidance, which is, a very long-standing political strategy where you just simply, as it sounds, you divert blame to others, and then you take credit consistently for any positives. And we see that has been a really wonderful strategy for Trump. I think we're also going to see in the response of these emails concerted ignorance, which is when it's a collective way of going about a cover-up. It's not individual. So concerted ignorance is really when you see an orchestration of people, particularly around someone that's causing harm, either pretending not to know or agreeing implicitly that they don't know, even though they do know. Deny, ignore, deflect until confusion abounds, and then people freeze because the confusion is so high.
So that's what happens in families, for example, when there's some kind of abuse going on and everyone pretends it's not going on even though they know it is.
Yes.
So that's what you're calling concerted ignorance, and that's also a political strategy.
Yes. A very powerful one, because it causes people to essentially freeze, because it goes even deeper than gaslighting. We know gaslighting is really contorting reality, but concerted ignorance, it's more of a collective effort where a person can feel outnumbered, where the truth becomes so small because you have so many people around, sticking to the narrative. It's all about narrative control, and I think that is what we have seen throughout this administration. I think it's what we will see in the wake of these, this alleged connection between Trump and Epstein. I think concerted ignorance has proven very successful.
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of scary because, like gaslighting, it especially right now with this administration erasing monuments and signs in parks and taking books out, that concerted ignorance can be backed up by a lack of evidence of what is actually true. And it makes it a lot harder. I was arguing with a friend who leans right yesterday, and he kept saying, well, prove it, we'll prove it, we'll prove it. And I'm good at proving it, but yet the more they obscure history and take away the evidence in our museums and such, I would imagine the easier it is to have that kind of a concerted ignorance strategy.
I think that's a brilliant point. That's exactly the playbook, is that, these strategies, they work in tandem, right? You don't usually see blame avoidance without concerted ignorance. You don't see concerted ignorance without simply a suppression of information, because if you can control information, then your concerted ignorance can't be countered. There's no way to counter any of these strategies without actually having the evidence. And I was asked yesterday, actually, by someone. They basically said, what advice would you give someone who's kind of grappling with whether or not to release certain information, right? Like how these emails were released, like who's grappling with whether or not to do it, and wondering that if they do it, it could be perceived as some sort of political ploy, similar to what the Democrats and their timing and how they're being accused. And my response is just simple. I think that regardless of what people think or how they're going to spin your actions, even if you are playing up on a particular timing, we should actually consider that smart. It doesn't mean that you're being manipulative. It just simply means that you know how to read the room and when to release something. But first and foremost, if the information you have is credible and someone is being harmed or has been harmed, you have a duty to release that information. You believed you had the best information you had.
Dr. Brittany Friedman is my guest. You're invited to the conversation either on YouTube in the chat there going crazy, or you can call at 800-920-1580. I love the scientific unpacking and analysis of the idea of cover-up as we watch one in real time. We're looking at the election. We're looking at the state of our country, and I'm very fascinated. I can't wait to ask you about how you see what the Trump administration is doing around the carceral state, because he's getting a lot of credit from a lot of black men in particular for pardoning people and freeing people. So what's the policy side look like? All that is coming up on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
eBay has reinvented vehicle buying. From click to curb, everything's covered. Ever try to buy a car online and end up in a parking lot with a stranger and some blind trust? That era is over. Now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car. It's where you buy it, start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. This is the modern way to buy your next ride on eBay. eBay. Things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Caramel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Whoa, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon wave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible. Got your black.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, Dr. Brittany Friedman, he is here. She is an author and a scholar. It's a Think Tank Thursday. And one of my, okay, let's finish the cover-up. What other classic cover-up things do you see happening around this Epstein situation? What do you think we should keep our eyes on as it unfolds?
I think that we should also really keep our eyes on the potential wielding of public apologies. And what I mean by that is that, if people see that blame avoidance isn't working in their favor, concerted ignorance, there's cracks that are starting to happen because people actually do have information that's disrupting their narrative of not knowing, then I think the next ploy that we typically see is, okay, it's time to go on my redemption tour because I am, going to be found guilty in the arena of public opinion, and the only way back is to either find God, to get I mean, I think we even see this with I wish I had his name just because of how profoundly nasty I think the behavior was, but there is like a pastor that like came out in speaking in favor of P. Diddy and saying like, let us have him so we can redeem him. He said something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that goes to another point of, that's kind of the final ploy is the redemption tour, the apology tour, and trying to show some remorse and that one can be saved, and playing upon these narratives of like everyone deserves a second chance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, I can't imagine Trump doing that, but certainly there's a lot of other players here, and they wouldn't be fighting this hard if there wasn't a lot of stuff in these files that is going to implicate a lot of people. And personally, I don't care if they're Democrats, Republicans, progressives, conservatives. If you're sleeping with children and trafficking children, then you need to be accountable for that.
Yep, I think 100%. And I agree with you. I don't think Trump the apology tour is not in his playbook. I think that he will go down screaming before that happens. But I do think that others and those around him, and I think also, others that could be implicated irregardless of their public political stances, I think the apology tour it's just proven effective.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially if you're not black.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Friedman, talk to me about, you mentioned Diddy. There's a rumor that Trump is going to pardon him. Maybe, but maybe not, because Diddy also criticized him. So we'll see what the president decides to do. But Trump has gotten so much mileage out of the Kodak Black, Lil Wayne, the pardons that he's done for high-profile black men, along with the First Step Act, which started under Obama, but Trump did sign it. Mm-hmm. Around prisons with the state, because I think he's getting credit for being this guy who's reducing the number of black folks in prison and scaling back the prison industrial complex.
I think that the reason why he's getting so much credit for that is one, you know, with anything with Trump, it really is a ploy to shape a reputation. But I think the problem is that when people receive benefits from a particular policy, I think there can be a tendency to individualize one's politics. And what I mean by that is I think very prominent black people, black men in particular, defending Trump's, you know, stance or essentially saying that he's acting as a white savior for black people with the criminal justice system and all of the harms of mass incarceration. I think they're individualizing benefits that are not widespread. They're not systematic across the black population, because the facts are that we are still overwhelmingly represented compared to our usually typically range between 13% of the U.S. population. But that is not the case when it comes to prison, right? Well over half. So I think that, you know, seeing these one-off policies that are not actually truly making a dent in the issues caused by mass incarceration, yes, making real impact in certain people's lives, but is that enough to actually give credit to a politician that then on the flip side has laid the groundwork for private prison companies to actually profit from issues that are interconnected, such as immigration detention, such as private prisons that are overwhelmingly holding incarcerated black people, because he's doing both at the same time. So it actually doesn't make sense when it's laid out in that way. And I think that the explanation I have is I think people do really tend to think small, individualize what they see versus thinking of the bigger picture and actually looking at all of the harms that this person has actually done and all of the infrastructure legally that they have laid out so that their constituents in the private prison lobby are going to profit. I mean, we even saw that with the spike in disappearances through immigration raids. People, I think it was the CEO of Geo Group. I don't want to misquote which CEO, but I believe it was that private prison company that was like, yeah, we're expecting great gains in the wake of this. It's like, how could, you know, and I think also beyond individualization, I think the issue is that at times people don't see the we, in the sense that, like, it's we people of color. Yes, in these moments, like, if those tactics used on Latinx communities are tactics that we in the black community have been fighting back and organizing against since the like origin of this colonial entity that we call the United States. So it's like how the separation thinking and this idea that somehow doesn't impact us or like that we're different, I think is also an issue.
It's our black version of America. Reforms in the incarceration of black people under the Trump administrations.
I gotta say, like, categorically no, in the sense of making a real dent. No. I think that one, you know, I guess the reason I get so fired up about this is like when I, you know, speak to people that are currently incarcerated and talk about the current conditions, right? Conditions are still just as horrendous as they've ever been. But right now, we are truly facing a moment where, because of this, like, just kind of brazen far right politics now where you can just be like the Klan in public, it has made it even worse for black people on the inside because prisons are porous. Yes, they're closed, but they are intimately connected politically to what happens on the outside. So when we think about these spikes in hate crimes, for instance, that we've seen on the outside against people of color, black people, Asian people, right? same thing's happening on the inside under this administration, because there's more of a brazenness that, I can get away with this. I can, shank someone, or I can assault someone that is just because they're black, because I can get away with it.
Dr. Brittany Friedman will continue the conversation after news, traffic, and sports right here.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The House has passed a funding measure to end the government shutdown. Before the vote, Republicans and Democrats blamed each other for the prolonged standoff. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson.
They admitted that they were using the American people as leverage in this political game. It was wrong and it was cruel.
The shutdown is now the longest in U.S. history. Black D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser wants ICE off a federal task force after a viral video shows a man screaming during his arrest in Southeast D.C. ICE says the Venezuelan man was detained on a deportation order. Bowser says it's up to the feds to remove ICE from the task force. And the Dallas Cowboys have launched a memorial fund for Marshawn Nealon's pregnant girlfriend after the defensive end's apparent suicide last week. The fund will ensure Catalina Mancera and their baby are cared for. If you or someone you love needs help, text 988. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Hard rock style is coming to the Central Valley, just 15 miles south of Bakersfield off Route 99. You'll find world-class gaming and entertainment. Less drive time equals more playtime. The all-new Hard Rock Casino Tejon, opening November 13th.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was a rough night Wednesday for both of LA's NBA teams. The Lakers were in Oklahoma City and got crushed. The defending NBA champs beat the Lakers by 29, 121-92. 30 points and 9 assists for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Lakers had 20 turnovers. At the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic scored 25 points in the first quarter against the Clippers en route to a 55-point performance. The Clippers have lost 6 straight after going down 130-116. LeBron practiced for the first time this season on Wednesday. He participated in 5-on-5 scrimmages with the Lakers G League team, the South Bay Lakers. Just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
1 in 5 black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and the risk is twice as high compared to white adults. But AD isn't just forgetting a name or losing track of time. Signs of early AD could be repeating questions, missing appointments, or struggling with bills and daily tasks. These things aren't a normal part of aging. Here's the good news. Treatments are available that may help if AD is diagnosed early. If you notice changes in memory or daily routines, whether in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalsearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more about the signs and symptoms and a potential treatment option. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580, standing with you in perilous times. If you've been impacted by the federal government shutdown or the discontinuation of SNAP benefits, you can find a food bank near you that's offering free groceries by going to lafoodbank.org or call 211. Additionally, LA County offers free meals at certain parks. There are meals and snacks for kids and seniors. Visit parks.lacounty.gov to find out which centers are offering which programs and to register in advance. And in addition to offering 2 free meals per day for all students, the LA Unified School District provides weekend meal kits for its students by request. The meal kits can be picked up on Fridays at grab-and-go locations. Please visit lausd.org/Cafe LA. That's lausd.org/CAFELA. We keep us safe. We keep us provided for. We keep us connected. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Dr. Brittany Friedman is my guest, and we're talking about a lot of stuff. We're doing some post-election analysis, but looking also at the state of what's happening in our country, and we're talking about prisons. And that point that you made about the way that the rise of white supremacy and the emboldening of racism in this country is impacting the population inside was just terrifying, actually.
Yes, it's impacting people inside in California, right? And then, I mean, we know in particular other states like Louisiana, right? Seeing spikes, Alabama, seeing spikes in what we would consider to be hate crimes if they were happening on the outside, but also right here at home in California, seeing increases in correctional officer misconduct and alleged, I will say the alleged simply, but increases in harm against not just people of color, but Black people in particular, because of everything that we represent as a community that is being attacked. It really is. It's like the, modern day Klan. And the scary part, too, is that we don't have the same oversight. We don't have the same oversight when it comes to prisons, when it comes to the harm that people are experiencing. And people risk their lives to even say something. It's so dangerous for an incarcerated person to even file a grievance. Yet in our country, because of the Prison Litigation Reform Act that passed in 1996, under Clinton, actually, because of that act, incarcerated people have to exhaust the prison's grievance system before they can even sue. Because if they try to sue under that federal act, their lawsuit can be thrown out on a technicality, not because there's no merit to it, just because they didn't exhaust the grievance system of their correctional department.
And then you hear about, we hear about Ghislaine Maxwell, the I guess, madam or whatever she was for Jeffrey Epstein, who's serving time for trafficking underage girls, being moved. How significant is a move like that in terms of quality of life, and how rare would it be for kind of a prisoner that didn't have dirt on the president?
I mean, it's incredibly rare. Incredibly rare. And I think that, going back to what we were saying earlier, I think a move like that, it calls into question, right? Are we witnessing a cover-up in real time? Yes, I would say that we are, based on the facts that we know, based on everything we know about this administration, everything we know about Epstein and his networks. And I think that, similar to what we saw in England with Prince Andrew, I think we have to actually really prepare. That could be the U.S. of A.
Interesting. So, her golfing or whatever they're saying she's doing, that's not an exaggeration. I know some people think that people go to prison and just sit around and it's real cushy. They just lift weights and watch TV. But I have been inside, not as a prisoner, but, speaking or whatever. And the prisons that I've been to are not places I would want to live.
No, I mean, it's a complete absurdity that incarcerated people are sitting around watching TV, working out, and just kind of like chilling as though it's like a weekend barbecue. I mean, it's an insane assertion, but I think that our political rhetoric and our cultural rhetoric, especially around prisons and incarceration, a lot of the rhetoric is quite insane. Like when you hear it, and what I mean by that is that it's just like such a falsehood. In my research lab, it's called the Captive Money Lab, which I co-founded with colleagues at a colleague in New York and a colleague in North Carolina. Our research lab actually looks at the use of these, for lack of a better term, just gaslighting rhetorics around prisons by politicians, and how that contributes to the practice of pay to stay in prisons, which is when states are actually charging incarcerated people for their prison time using daily rates. So like some states like Connecticut, for instance, have for a long time had the highest rate, almost $280 a day.
And that they're charging to the prisoner for room and board?
Yes. And then we found in lawmakers said, yeah, it's like a hotel bill. I actually have an article that, like, the beginning of the article is that quote. It's like a hotel bill, because that's what they were arguing, that prison is like a hotel, and it's like the Hilton. And so we should be able to charge people these daily rates, and we should be able to come after them for it, and even their families should have to pay for it if they can't.
Wow. So the families become liable. But how can you pay that, especially when prison labor pays like 10 cents a day or 10 cents an hour?
So one of the ways they do it, they definitely, in some states, will deduct from your wages to pay for this pay-to-stay bill. But in other states, and really what kind of kicked off our work in this area, is that I discovered when I was living in Chicago as a grad student that Illinois was suing people, like not just coming after them and saying, you owe us a bill, but the Attorney General of Illinois was actually suing incarcerated people for these big bills, like $150,000, or like the biggest one we've ever seen was like $800,000. And I was just so shocked. And I remember even my mentors, other like organizers, were shocked. And I was like, did you know that these lawsuits are this much? And they're like, no. So that's actually how I learned how to FOIA, because I wanted to figure out, like, how can I use the Freedom of Information Act to get this lawsuit data so I can kind of like see, like, what is Illinois up to? And I found out so many things that's how the lab even started, because my colleagues were like, we want to do this with you, and let's take it nationwide.
So what happens if they win that lawsuit? There's no way an incarcerated person is going to come up with 800 grand.
Yeah, no, they're not.
So they're financially ruined for life. They have bad credit for life. They're already a felon. And what do? They just keep going after them, like through collections? I mean, how do they?
So what they do is they usually try to seize property, and it's not just their own property. They will try to seize property that's also jointly held. And so we've seen a common practice in cases where the state will freeze an incarcerated person's bank account, but they can actually see when they do it that on the name of the account it will be, a spouse, children, sometimes siblings. And so we've seen in the FOIA data dump that family members will write back and they'll say, hey, that's my brother that you're suing, but that account is like all the money that we as siblings received from our parents' life insurance, and it's in their account. If we would have known that them going to prison meant that we needed to move the money because it could be potentially seized by the government, we would have done that, but we did not know. And this is not fair. This is not their money. It's the family's money, and that argument never works, right? Because it constitutes essentially what a colleague of mine at USC, Professor Atuane, calls state graft, where it's like there's an intentional seizure of resources. And it's like that's their intention. Nothing's going to get around it if the law is on their side.
Wow, I've never heard of that. That's so egregious. I mean, it reminds me of the, when they property forfeitures, when they seize property.
It's something that I would argue often flies under the radar. I mean, I've even had conversations with lawmakers where I'm like, but you voted. And they'll be like, I don't know. They're like, what is pay to stay? And I'm like, but you voted. I can go and check the record and see that you voted yes for this, or you voted against efforts to try to repeal it in your state. And I think that going back to the notion of information power and the ability to suppress information, I think that's actually how our society runs. Who has the most information? Who's able to deal it out, right? And that's why pay to stay, I think, proliferates. We just conducted last year in my research lab a national survey to see, okay, who still uses pay to stay on the books. And we just published that, and it's at least 46 states.
What?
At least 46
That's
states.
almost all the states.
Yes, have prison pay to stay. And, we studied the case of Illinois so closely because they repealed it in 2019 after years of on-the-ground advocacy. And we were like, how did Illinois do this? Like, is this a success story that we can replicate? And we found that it wasn't even the moral argument. People saying, like, my loved one died destitute. There's this one case in the Chicago Tribune that, like, really garnered a lot of public support because this man was released. They took all the money he got from his mother's death, and he died unhoused, and they didn't even have enough money for his funeral. And the state did that by suing him and taking everything he had when he was released. And it wasn't that much. It was like no more than $20,000. And that's what, it's like a level of just vengeance that we see in our work. But in Illinois, that wasn't enough to sway lawmakers to repeal this pointless law because most people have nothing. So you're actually, wasting taxpayer dollars to go after people because you're paying the attorney general, you're paying all their employees, all this like state employees are getting paid to carry out these lawsuits, but you're not getting any money back. And what's sad is that was the argument that won, not the moral argument, people's lives being destroyed, Black communities being destroyed by this. It's just, it's not sound fiscal policy. And that's the reason why Illinois repealed it. That's why they got bipartisan support, is because no one wanted to be seen as wasting taxpayer money.
That's deep. Well, we're going to have to figure out how to make that argument here in California when it comes to repealing forced labor, because we think we've tried it 3 times, and so far we have failed. Dr. Brittany Friedman is my guest, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday work. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance. and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. I mean, mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
The conversation continues right now with Dominic DePrima on First Things First.
And Dr. Brittany Friedman is my guest. And Dr. Friedman, you've spent a lot of time looking at what goes on in our carceral system, in our prison system here in the United States. Your 2025 book, Carceral Apartheid, How Lies and White Supremacists Run Our Prisons, was an eye-opener. I think this conversation about the pay to stay, though, I had no idea that how aggressive this was, because people get out of jail with no money, prison with no money. Many times difficult to get a job or an apartment because of what I call the double jeopardy of having a felony and having to check that box. But now you're saying that states are suing prisoners to get money that they were charged for staying in prison.
Yes. And I think that and many lawmakers don't even know that their state has it on the books.
I mean, you said even some who voted for it, which is not surprising to me. I've had Congresswoman Maxine Waters once told me how many times lawmakers don't even read the bills. Sometimes they don't even read the bills that they're discussing, debating, and ultimately voting on. And then you're saying in some states it's worse than others. You gave the example of Florida. Explain what you mean by that.
Yes. So certain states we are now starting to categorize as being like, high intensity pay to stay states or most egregious. And it's because they don't just go about suing people. It's also the terms of the lawsuit. So for instance, in Florida, we would consider Florida to be high on the scale of, intensity or intensity to cause harm because Florida charges people not just based on the time served. They charge you based on your sentence. And so you could even get out early. And Florida will say, actually, you got out in 5 years, but your sentence is for 10 years. And that's what your bill is based on.
That's crazy. Not even hotels do that.
Exactly.
And then you said, even when they get settlements for some terrible crime that's been perpetrated on them inside the system, the state will take the money.
Yes. I mean, there's this case that I recently just was thinking over because of how horrendous it is. And like as a mother, I was like just thinking about it. It's from an incarcerated woman in New York. And she was housed in prison. She was awaiting trial, right? So that means she hasn't even been convicted. She's awaiting trial. She's pregnant. She is in labor for hours screaming, and the correctional officers are ignoring her. And most people think maybe that would be like kind of a one-off, but no, it's actually quite common when you hear these stories and narratives of incarcerated women, especially that are giving birth. And so she was just left alone to give birth in her cell. And once that happened, right, faced a whole host of health challenges along with her child, and she eventually sued, won a settlement, and then the state turned around and countersued her and said, you won a settlement against us, so we're going to sue you for your pay-to-stay bill, and you actually owe us thousands and thousands of dollars, so we're going to go after a portion of your settlement. And that is a common practice that we're finding, and Florida does it too. We've seen it in Connecticut, which is a state that recently repealed in part in 2022, but again, in part in Connecticut, still left pay to stay for certain felonies. You can still be charged for your prison time.
So putting this in the context of, what we've been talking about, which is where we are in our country, and Trump getting all this credit, particularly from black people, for the First Step Act, which we know started under Obama, but he did sign it. Like that is a decent thing that he did, right? First term. And it did get a few people out, but it's not a mass program. With the proliferation of these private prisons now, we see, ICE detention. Is where
regard. And to add to that, I think that public activists that are really championing the First Step Act as evidence that Trump is on the side of fixing the criminal legal system. I think that they're really doing it for their own reputational gains. That's what I would say. I think it's more about that.
I mean, I felt like the situation with the prison industrial complex was one of the rare issue areas where conservatives and progressives could get on the same page. There was at least a window of time where we were saying too many people are being put in jail. This has become a problem. Is that window of opportunity gone?
I think that window is gone. I think that the reason it closed is because of the massive racial backlash that we saw that even led to the rise of Trump. I think that closed several doors, and that bipartisan door has closed because now it's in fashion to be overtly racist. Now it's, you don't have to play along and meet in the middle.
So I guess the reason I tee up that question is because for all my friends and family members that are still holding on to this idea that somehow the president is going to help imprisoned black people or reform the prison system. Do we have any evidence that anything like that could be on the horizon or could actually be coming out of this administration?
I think the only evidence we have that is concrete outside of, the past and people kind of still trying to hold on to the First Step Act, I think in the current moment, perhaps Trump might continue to pardon people that he prefers. I think there is, some word that maybe he will pardon P. Diddy, and I think that is making people point to see like he's, offering support, and it's like, but it's P. Diddy. Like, that's my first comment is, but it's P. Diddy. And then number two, also, how is that signaling an end to the not just decades of mass incarceration, but if we look at the history of our country, really centuries of the imprisonment, torture, and disappearance of black people in our country, it's not putting a dent in any of that. And also, if he does pardon P. Diddy, we shouldn't be surprised because of all of the allegations against Trump himself. And I think we find that people accused of different harmful activities tend to stick together.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Tell folks how they can find you online and keep up with your books and things.
Well, thank you, Dominique. I appreciate being able to talk to you and catch up with you this morning. And for all of those listening, you can find me on Instagram, X, and Blue Sky at Curly Professor. You can find me on my website at BrittanyFriedman.com. And my book, Carceral Apartheid, How Lies and White Supremacists Run Our Prisons, is available anywhere you get your books. But if you are here in LA or you want to order online from independent bookstores, please hit up Reparation Club because they have my book and they had it early when you could pre-order it, and I appreciate them for that.
Man is either free or he is not free. There can be no apprenticeship for freedom. I'll see you on socials. I'm at DePrima Radio. I'm at KBLA 1580. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.